Coming up on the show, new information about how the CDC shooting unfolded and is raising new questions about gun laws here in Georgia. We're going to look at how Georgia's current laws and the absence of the red flag law may have impacted what happened. School is back in session and drivers are being urged to take extra precautions to help protect our kids. The Gridlock Guy, Doug Turnbull, is going to join us with the rules of the road when it comes to school zone safety. And Fulton County is testing a new program to provide free childcare for its employees. How it will work and why the county says it's badly needed. This is The Take. Let's get it. Hello and welcome. I'm Chesley McNeil, and this is The Take, where we go above and beyond the headlines and we look at the why and how stories are impacting you and your community. Of course, we invite the experts in to share their take on today's top stories, and we try to have just a little bit of fun as well. Well, yesterday we got our first official look at the gunman in Friday's attack on the CDC headquarters, 30-year-old Patrick White of Kennesaw. The GBI confirmed that White had died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Some of the other new details put out on Tuesday by the GBI, agents found more than 500 shell casings on the scene and determined that nearly 200 rounds struck 6 buildings on the CDC campus. The GBI says White was armed with 5 different guns that he took from his father's gun safe.
It was a mixture, I believe, of, I know, rifles, shotgun, and maybe a handgun. I'm not completely sure on that. The majority, I believe, of the shell casings recovered were from a long gun rifle. All indications in our investigation was that they were secured and that he forced his way into the safe that contained the weapons.
The GBI says it found writings inside the suspect's home that shared his discontent with the COVID-19 vaccine, but no threats of violence. Now it's raising questions about whether Georgia's gun laws left too many gaps. Let's bring in Orrin Hudson. He is a former state trooper and now serves as a motivational speaker, CEO of Checkmate, based out of Stone Mountain. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. First thing I want to just give a thanks and prayers for the officer who lost his life trying to protect others. He was committed to doing what was needed, and we want to really acknowledge him for his bravery and his willing to take action, because a lot of people are afraid to move, and he made a move.
Yeah. When you hear about the suspect legally getting his hands on multiple rounds, multiple firearms, despite recent suicide concerns, what does that tell you about Georgia's gun laws and how they work?
For him to get 200 rounds off in that situation is horrible. I think we have the weakest gun laws in the country. We need to modify our gun laws, and we need people to step up when we know somebody is not mentally stable. We need to take action, and we need to make sure we remove the guns from the house.
In this particular case, we hear that the law enforcement was recently contacted, but no legal way to temporarily remove those firearms. How big of a gap would you say is that here in the Georgia system?
I think Georgia has the weakest gun laws on the planet. I think we like number 46. So we got to tighten our weakened gun laws, and we got to make sure that we're doing everything to protect the community, because at the end of the day, the life we save may be our own. Yeah. And if we haphazardly just make laws where people can just carry this and without this and that, this makes it weaker for everybody, and it hurts the officers, and the officers can't come home safe at home.
What type of gun laws would you put into place? Like, what do you, when you say we have the weakest gun laws in the country, what should we be doing?
I think we got to tighten up on the permit. We got to reduce the open gun policy, and we got to make sure that that if we later find out something mental is going on, we need to find a way to remove all guns from that house. And we need people to say something if they see something, because a lot of times people see the problem, but they don't want to get involved. They don't want to say anything. I think the father called in and said, listen, my son may have been the one. So the father kind of knew something was not right. Yeah.
Now, he had his guns in a safe. They were locked away. The suspect broke into his safe and got those guns out. What does that say about our laws here in a situation like that?
He need to be charged. I mean, people, you let people just get guns, it's on the parents, it's on the person that's in charge, because we got to have responsibility. When the kid shot up the school the other day, they charged the father. You know, people got to people got to be accountable for their action. You know, people have to be accountable.
Yeah. We don't have any red flag laws here, obviously. You know, is that are there any other legal tools that Georgia police can use to prevent somebody like that from having weapons?
I think it goes back to the community. You know, we all need each other. We need people. If you see something, you need to say something. We need everybody coming together as one. We need the law enforcement. We need the community. We need everybody involved, because everybody can't see everything. You can't see the picture when you're in the frame, and everybody have blind spots. The blind spots is what's causing the problem.
Yeah, we've had incidents. You mentioned a couple of them already, right? We've had these incidents that have taken place. Yet our laws have seen little change. What is it going to take to really push us over the top to get these more restrictions that you're mentioning?
I think the community got to come together and say, listen, enough is enough. We know bad things continue to happen when we fail to do something different. We've got to do something different. Bad things continue to happen when concerned people fail to make the right move. Let's make the right move. Let's tighten the gun laws up. Let's get the community involved. If you see something, say something. And if you know somebody is off their rocker, we need to shut that down immediately.
How would you? Well, when you got the community involved, how would you know? Is it just a matter of reporting that there could be some incidents? We've heard about maybe the suicide talks, that kind of thing. Is that at the point that you start to alert the law officials?
Yeah, and the parent, the father knew something was not right. And sometimes your friend, like some of the friends said, one of his neighbors said he knew something was not right. He was 30 years old. But I just think people need to just, be more involved. And here's why. What you sincerely desire for others will happen for you. So when we get involved, the life we save may be our own.
Yeah, that's so true. True saying right there, and maybe some other things. And when you look back on this case, obviously, we tend to play, couch quarterback a little bit. Looking back at the situation, how do you think it could have been handled better?
Well, I think the father plays a role, because the father knew. He made some phone calls in. I think the father played a role. The officer did everything he could do. I don't think there's nothing. David Rose, I thank God for him and bless his family and pray for his family. I don't think that there's nothing he could have done. It's basically the guy got 200 rounds off.
Yeah. He
blew out 100 and some windows. Come on now, that's too many shots to be shot off. Somebody probably saw something and didn't really move and said, wait a minute, something wrong with this picture. It just don't look right.
Yeah.
And
all right,
so
Orrin Hudson, thanks so much for joining.
Be more vigilant.
All right. Orrin Hudson, thanks so much for your insight. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the show. The White House is defending the president's move to take over the nation's capital, saying federal agents made 23 arrests in its first night. Joining us now is NBC Washington correspondent Alice Barr. And Alice, good morning to you. What do we know about the 23 arrests, and how much more aggressive will these Guard troops get in working to fulfill the president's orders?
Yeah, important to note that those arrests were not actually made by National Guard troops. They were made by the various federal agents from the Drug Enforcement Agency, the FBI, et cetera, that are now also on the streets, along with the troops and along with Metro Police here. But it was 23 arrests, and the White House press secretary said that they were for a range of crimes, including homicide, firearms, stalking, as well as drug offenses. And so important to note again that those are not going to be carried out by the troops who are on the streets. Those troops are actually here in order to secure federal properties, and as well as deterring violent crime, just essentially through their presence on the streets. And we have been told that in most cases they will not be carrying firearms and they will not be arresting people.
Gotcha. All right. All this comes as the president gets ready for his Friday's meeting in Alaska with Russian President Vladimir Putin. But why is the White House calling this now a listening session?
Yeah, so the White House seems to be managing expectations here a little bit, and by calling it a listening session, Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, said that, there's only one party to the war that's going to be present. That's Russia. Ukraine is not going to be at the table. The Ukrainian president will not be there for that summit. But she said this is an opportunity for President Trump to hear directly from President Putin of Russia about what it would take to end the war. And it cannot be more than that, because Ukraine has said repeatedly that no decisions can be made about Ukraine without Ukraine. And to that end, there is a meeting that's set to begin actually any minute now by phone. President Zelensky of Ukraine is in Berlin, and he's meeting with the German chancellor. They're having a conversation, and then they're going to have a joint phone call with President Trump, with Vice President J.D. Vance, and with other European leaders. And in fact, Zelensky will be sitting alongside the German chancellor. Important symbolism, because this is really all about putting Ukraine's needs to the forefront before that one-on-one meeting. President Zelensky has said several times he's concerned that President Putin of Russia may try to deceive the United States and may try to extract more concessions in terms of land and things like that that Ukraine has not been willing to sign up for.
So is hope now dimming to get all three of those leaders in the same room?
Well, it's not happening in this meeting, but the White House press secretary said that President Trump does want that to happen and that he wants it to happen soon. She said in this instance, she was pressed about why Zelensky's not going to be there, that this was a meeting that President Putin requested, and that sort of these are the terms then, that it's going to be bilateral, but that it's a starting point to then make sure that Ukraine is involved and that there is a trilateral summit. Worth noting that there are critics saying just the fact that this meeting is happening and that it's happening on American soil is already a victory for President Putin, though President Trump says he's going to make sure and get information out of this that leads to a resolution in what has been a terribly deadly war for years now.
All right, Alice Barr, thanks so much for your information. Really appreciate it. All right, tariffs, folks. What impact does it have on the everyday American? We're going to discuss that when we come back. Stay right there. Yeah, tariffs becoming a bad word. You know, it's meant to protect American jobs, but they can also drive up the cost on everything from groceries to cleaning supplies. And now the latest round is set to hit small business owners hard with higher material costs that often trickle straight down to your wallet. Joining us now to break down who really pays the price and how policy could be done a little bit differently is Michael Negron. He previously worked for the Biden administration and now is the senior fellow with the Center for American Progress. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right. When you hear the word tariffs, it makes a lot of people cringe, of course, but what's the first real world impact that comes to your mind for everyday Americans?
Well, tariffs are a tax, plain and simple. And they're a tax that an importer pays at the port of entry. So if it's a business that's ordering a crate of shoes to sell to independent shoe stores, those products are now facing higher tariffs because the majority of shoes, for example, are made in countries like China and Vietnam and India and Bangladesh, which are all subject to 20% or greater tariffs. And so what happens is that these tariffs are paid at the ports. The businesses pay them. The businesses are largely American businesses, not foreign businesses, because it's American companies that are bringing these products in. And then those businesses are eating some of those tariffs, but they're also passing them on to consumers in the form of higher prices. And that's just something that ultimately will affect all Americans, particularly because this president has chose to implement them in such a broad and sweeping way. These are not targeted tariffs by any means. There are universal tariffs across the board. And for a president who was elected to lower prices on day one, a promise he made, his policies are having the opposite effect and are driving prices up and will continue to do so in the coming months.
So it's the businesses that will get the brunt of the tariffs fastest. They will get it first. So where you said that the business owner gets it, then the customer, or they both feel it at the same time?
The business faces it first. It's the business that imports the product. Very recently, Goldman Sachs did an analysis that found that of the tariffs implemented to date as of this summer, American businesses had paid 64% of the cost and only had passed along 22% to consumers. But at the same time, the expectation is that will change over time. Businesses have been absorbing these tariffs so far in part because They aren't sure how long the president will have them in effect. You know, the president has changed course lots of times on these tariffs. He's announced one number, changed it to another number, announced a deadline, prolonged the deadline. He just moved the deadline for the Chinese negotiations back another 90 days. And so businesses wanted to avoid passing those on to consumers for fear of losing consumers too soon. But as these tariffs persist, the expectation is that number will flip, and about 70% of those tariffs will end up being passed to consumers. And that should start later this fall. And I think we'll be starting to see prices go even higher as we approach the holiday season.
Yeah. If you could design the perfect tariff policy, what would it look like?
Well, I think tariffs are an important tool to protect jobs and to help American industries grow. What I would do is I would have it paired with investments. And so if there are particular sectors, manufacturing sectors, semiconductors is another example where we want to get more American-made semiconductors. I think tariffs can be a targeted tool when you pair it with some kind of investment to help American producers make those products more cheaply. One example I can give is over the course of the Biden administration, we had a 200% tariff on Chinese-made electric vehicles because the Chinese-made electric vehicles are very cheap, and the Chinese government puts a lot of money into supporting their production, which is unfair. And so what the Biden administration did was we had a high tariff on those electric vehicles, and then through the Inflation Reduction Act, provided these tax credits to consumers that basically just reduced the price at the dealer to make it easier to buy electric vehicles. And then over the course of just 2022 to 2024, electric vehicle sales climbed. U.S. domestic electric vehicle sales climbed by around 70% over the course of those 3 years. And so that's an example of a targeted use of tariffs to support American industries. But what we're doing here is anything but targeted. These are sweeping tariffs across the entire economy. And what we've seen is that the average tariff across all incoming products is now up to just under 19%. That's up from about 2.5% when the president took office, a huge increase and the highest since 1933.
Yeah. All right, Michael Negron, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate your insight today.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, not a problem. All right, when we come back, we're talking school safety with the Gridlock Guy. Stay right there. We're back right after this. From the morning carpool crush to those flashing bus light stop signs that keep kids safe on the roads, it takes more than just good luck. It takes all of us, right, really playing our role in that safety. Our Gridlock Guy, Doug Turnbull, is here to steer us through those do's and don'ts and dangerous habits that we need to ditch for the school year, right? Those things that we've been doing over the summertime. Now we have to tighten up a little bit, right? Talking about those good habits, those bad habits, and things like that. So now that school's back in session, what is the biggest slip-ups that you're seeing out on the roads now?
For sure. Well, the biggest slip up is that I'm still in my road outfit, okay, and I'm not in the good Chesley outfit here in the studio. I know, but for real, it's not just what I'm seeing, but it's also, as I've spoken to different bus drivers and different people that are involved in transportation safety, what they're seeing too. Basically, just a couple of weeks ago, we went to a back to schools open drive safely event that AAA, Fulton County Schools, the Governor's Office of Highway Safety put together. And Chesley, that event, basically they were explaining how drivers are more distracted, which not a big surprise. We've seen that drivers are more distracted. They are driving too fast. And then here's the most harrowing one. Okay, distracted and fast, we do that, but they're blowing right through the bus stop signs that when they put the arm out on the side of the bus. They estimate, the Governor's Office of Highway Safety, that it happens 9,000 times a day statewide. Wow. 9,000, which is over 1 million times a year in a 180-day school year.
Have you seen any polls on that to kind of question people? Do they not see that arm or something? I mean, it seems like everybody now would know. All right, if a school bus has those flashing lights on it, it's stopped. You need to stop.
That you would think, right? And I think there's some confusion, number one, because they think, well, okay, it's not on my side of the road. Well, the state law says that if a school bus is stopped and you do not have a raised median in the middle, I know that's confusing, but not just something that delineates the side of the road. You see the school bus here, a curb, basically. Then if you don't have that, you got to stop in both directions. People also think if they're loading onto a school bus, if kids are loading on a school bus, it's on the right side of the bus. I can pass on the left side. We never know what a kid's going to do. In fact, a state patrol colonel, or a lieutenant rather, that I spoke to said, drivers, you not only need to watch the bus, but those little legs and arms running around it, okay? Because you never know, kids are unpredictable. And what I learned from doing this story that we aired here on 11Alive, and I wrote in the Gridlock Guy on 11alive.com and in the AJC, state officials are doing their part. They've got healthy school bus laws. The schools are doing their part. They've got safer buses. In fact, the newest buses in Fulton County actually have seatbelts on them. I didn't even know that. The ones they bought in the last few years. Yeah. It's time for drivers around it to do their job, Chesley. And, as the school bus driver drove 40 years said, she's only seen drivers around buses get worse, and she wanted people to remember to treat it like their own kids on that bus.
We learned last week, we had a guest on the show that said she was driving an ambulance or emergency management, and they said they even have to stop for that. So if they have to stop, folks, we have to stop as well.
Exactly. That's a great point.
Let's talk about Addie's Law real quick here. And what changes do you see for routes and bus drivers?
Well, for sure. And that Addie's Law was basically in response to a child that got hit and killed in Henry County by a lady that had blown through a school bus. So there's stricter enforcement as far as penalties for drivers that run through those. And it doesn't change the actual bus laws themselves. So it's something for drivers to remember. Not only does a life change when a child is hit, and that's the most important part, but if you're the person that does it, you would have absolute regret. And remember this story that we covered here on 11Alive. The driver, she took a special kind of a plea deal, I guess, and she was distraught, just absolutely bawling, knowing that her life was over and she was carrying that guilt. You got to think of that. When you're in a hurry out there, folks, the reason the school zone speed limits are 25 miles an hour is because a child is 4 times more likely to die when hit if they're hit at 35 versus 25. So that's why you got to obey the speed limits and be undistracted and also obey those stop signs.
Yeah. All right. You got a column that you put out. Which one on your next column? What do we?
Yeah, for sure. The next Gridlock Guy column, I went to the State Patrol to talk about why they changed the name of their Motor Carrier Compliance Division to Commercial Vehicle Enforcement and how they enforce the maintenance on these trucks. They do something like 50,000 roadside inspections just in the first 7 months of this year. It's crazy.
I want to say congratulations to you. I know you got an award recently.
Thank you. Yeah.
Keep up the good work, my friend. Happy you're on our team.
Hey, happy to be on your team with you, Chesley.
All right, that's the Gridlock Guy right there, folks. So glad you joined us. Appreciate it. All right, coming up on the show, 11Alive's Jonathan Martin is going to join us to talk about teachers' affordability of housing when we come back. Stay right there. Good stuff. Rising house costs are pushing many Metro Atlanta teachers to live further away from the classrooms they serve. Jonathan Martin joins us now with a look at his story as part of our Affording Atlanta series. And for this story, Jonathan, you followed a teacher as she searched for a home, and we have video of her riding in a car she, I guess, having problems trying to find something that's affordable, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Chesley. Yeah, we have video. We talked to this teacher, Miss Clacy Dawkins. She's been a teacher with DeKalb County Schools. She's worked for Atlanta Public Schools, so she's worked in the school system here in Metro Atlanta for well over 20 years. And she tells us that one of the things she just hasn't been able to do is find a home that is affordable. So again, she works in DeKalb County. She would like to live somewhere near there. She's been looking at homes in East Atlanta, but the average home there, well over $500,000, at least in the area where we were looking right here with her. Her rent is going up, and so she, like a lot of teachers, is having trouble affording a home. She said that one of the things she has to look at is even her salary. Even though she makes on the higher end of salaries, right around 6 figures, it's still tough. And so we've seen this for a lot of teachers, the cost of living. She said some teachers even having to go to food banks now just to make ends meet. And so it's something we're seeing with, of course, a lot of us, but teachers in particular is what we're focusing on in this story.
Yeah, Jonathan, are there programs out there that help teachers find housing?
Yeah, there are. A lot of them we've covered here, even on 11Alive. There's the Teacher Next Door program. There's the Home for Teachers program, along with the Georgia Dream. So different programs to help teachers out with closing costs and down payments. But here's the thing, not everyone qualifies. There certainly are different requirements when it comes to your credit score. There's also sometimes a situation where you might make too much to qualify for some of the housing programs, or you might not get the full amount depending on which tier you're considered in based on your income. So there is help out there available, but not everyone necessarily qualifies for the full amount.
Yeah, the city approved a teacher's village years ago. Where does that that project stand?
Yeah, a lot of people may remember former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms championed the Teachers Village. This is a downtown project that would really go right around Centennial Olympic Park, replacing a couple of the parking decks there with this big high-rise that would house some 400 or so teachers and seniors. The goal is to put teachers in what these developers called luxury apartments so they can live and they can also be in a space near where they work, right in the heart of the city of Atlanta. But that project has not necessarily gone as scheduled, but we are hearing that they plan to break ground sometime in October. So again, that would help some teachers out living closer to where they work.
Yeah. Teacher you spoke with, what does she plan to do? What's her plans going forward?
Well, she's going forward, Chesley, with trying to buy a house. But the thing is, she's now looking in Conyers. So from where she works in the Stone Mountain area and in DeKalb County, she's now looking at working in Conyers. So she says, look, I know it will be a longer commute, but I really want to start building some equity, have a home that I can call my own. So it's something that I think a lot of people in Atlanta deal with. They have to, factor in safety, their commute, with also where they live and where they want to work, and also live as well.
Jonathan, I don't know if you have the answer or not, but in your research of this story, are you finding that a lot of teachers are doing this, living further away from the schools in which they serve?
Yeah, we don't have any specific reports, but anecdotally, we've been talking with some people. We talked with the teachers union. We also spoke with the teacher that you saw featured in our story, and that's what we're hearing, that a lot of them are facing these challenges as housing prices are now still well out of reach for a lot of people to buy a home, especially on a teacher's salary. And in this woman's case, she lives by herself, so she doesn't have a second income to supplement what she makes, so it's even tougher for somebody like her.
Yeah, I can see when the weather starts to turn bad, that could be a little bit tricky. Hopefully, maybe this Teachers Village or maybe some other ideas and programs will spring up so they'll help these teachers out.
Yeah, every little bit helps. And so tonight in my story that we'll have here on 11Alive, we're going to talk a little bit more about those programs and the latest on that Teachers Village as well. We'll be hearing from the developer telling us kind of what we can expect when they hopefully break ground in October. All
right, Jonathan Martin, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for that insight. Really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, this week, a battle of words over the nation's handling people who have been detained by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. A new report from the U.S. Senator Jon Ossoff from Georgia alleges that widespread abuse in ICE detention facilities. His office cites 510 credible abuse reports since January of 2025, covering physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, and unsafe conditions. Vulnerable populations allegedly affected include pregnant women, children, and detainees with medical needs. The Department of Homeland Security countered the report of Senator Ossoff's office with a lengthy statement saying, in part, all detainees are provided with comprehensive medical care, proper meals, and given the opportunity to call their family members and attorneys. These are false allegations. All these false allegations are garbage and are part of the reason ICE agents are facing a 1,000% increase in assault against them. Joining us now is Midikar Valencia, the executive director of El Fugio, the nonprofit which works with families visiting people detained at Stewart Detention Center outside of Lumpkin. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Absolutely. Let's start off with the group and what does it do for families?
Yeah, I think what we are seeing, this report, but also what we have seen the Stewart Detention Center matches the narrative, the stories we hear from loved ones, the people that we visit at the detention center. They routinely go under abuse, neglect in this facility, and of course, we have documented that over the years. The report the Senator Ossoff published recently is just one of the evidence that the system has been created so much harm in our community, especially those who are impacted by detention and vulnerable population, as you mentioned.
Yeah, you see the realities up close and personal with these detention centers. What's some of the most things that people outside don't realize that these families have to go through?
Well, families who have loved ones detained go through immense, obstacles just to visit their loved ones at the detention center. Visitation is very restrictive. We at the facility have been able to see many families. We have seen a huge increase of families visiting at the detention center, and that allows us to do more services. But at the same time, people are most likely have less ability to, provide, for their loved ones, for the community. Their loved ones are detained. That brings a lot of economical challenge for them. But when loved ones also are dealing with medical issues inside of the detention center, that also brings a lot of fear in the community. A lot of, what if my loved one, suffers something inside of the detention center? What if the person gets, is sick, and then it probably won't get the proper attention they need at this facility? I think one of the experiences that through the pandemic, but also today, we hear with family members is that, just the overall fear that something can happen to their loved one, that they could die in detention and no one will do anything for them.
Yeah. Mr. Valencia, you've probably seen the Senator Office report on the alleged abuse at detention centers, and then DHS's strong pushback calling those claims false. From your vantage point, what do you make of the back and forth between the two?
Well, I think it's a reality. I mean, the reality is that the victims here is not ICE agents being facing backlash in the community, is the people impacted by immigration detention. They are the ones who, throughout the years, unfortunately, is not something new. Issues of, abuse and neglect, overcrowded detention facilities are not new. And of course, we have seen it overcharged and supercharged in this administration. But the real victims here are community members. They are the ones who are attacked while they're in the streets, while they're doing the work. And then when they are in detention, they face all of these obstacles to even communicate with their loved ones. Sometimes people are just disappear from the system. Loved ones are not able to even communicate with them. We have received calls from loved ones who saying, I can't find my loved one in the system. I don't know how to communicate with them. They probably don't know my phone number. So sometimes pass days and sometimes weeks without any communication, knowing what is happening to them. And when some of them are facing, as mentioned before, medical issues inside of the detention center, families are not notified that your loved one is dealing with this, that your loved one is being transferred to the hospital, that your loved one is dealing with all these issues. They deal with all these abuse and neglect alone in the detention center. And sometimes there is reports like who has reported, there's many organizations have reported all these issues. I think it's very clear for people to understand that this is a systemic problem, and the real victims here is the community members who are impacted by detention, who are currently detained.
Gotcha. Mr. Medcar Valencia, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your insight today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Google is being put on notice, and Spirit Airlines needs more cash. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to talk to CNN's Maribel Amber about both these issues coming up. Welcome back to the show. Prices held steady in July, but your wallet might not have felt that. CNN's Maribel Amber joins us now from the NASDAQ market site in New York. Good morning to you, Maribel. Inflation stuck in place, but the feds are watching it closely.
That's right. Good morning, Chesley. Well, the gains in stocks came after a report showed consumer prices held steady in July. The consumer price index rose 2.7% on an annual basis. So that was slightly below the 2.8% gain many economists had forecast. Investors saw the report as evidence that tariffs haven't pushed up prices as sharply as some expected. Prices for furniture, toys, and auto repairs all rose, but those gains were offset by a drop in gas prices. The data has many predicting the Fed will cut its key interest rate when it meets in mid-September. So, Chesley, indeed, we'll be watching that closely. Yeah, I'm watching it closely. All right, President Trump is ready to sue the Fed over some sticky price upgrades. President Trump's battle with Jerome Powell continues. Trump is again calling on the Fed chairman to lower interest rates. In a social media post, Trump said Powell, quote, must lower the Fed's benchmark interest rate now. Trump also threatened to allow what he called a major lawsuit against the Fed to proceed. He said the suit was related to cost overruns on the Fed's building renovation. No details on who would be filing the lawsuit or when it could be filed, Chesley. All right. Understand that Spirit ghosts bankruptcy, but warns that it might not be able to land safely without more cash. So Spirit Airlines says it may not be able to survive if it doesn't raise more cash. In its quarterly report, the carrier said it continues to be affected by adverse market conditions. That includes continued weak demand for domestic leisure travel. The Spirit came out of bankruptcy just 5 months ago and said it now needs more cash to meet creditor agreements. After cutting its debt during the restructuring, Spirit has been trying to attract flyers by marketing more upscale products, and it's been considering ways to lower costs. Chesley, Spirit is even looking at selling aircraft. aircraft, real estate, or airport gates as ways to raise money.
Wow. All right. Kodak warns the century-old legacy might not develop much longer. A rough outlook for a once mighty company.
Okay, after 133 years in business, Kodak says it may not be able to continue operating. The company said it doesn't have the financing to pay roughly $500 million in upcoming debt obligations. It made a disclosure in a regulatory filing where it said there was substantial doubt about its ability to continue. The Kodak, at one time in the 1970s, was the dominant name in photography, responsible for 90% of film and 85% of camera sales in the U.S., but the company struggled to adapt as digital photography grew and declared bankruptcy in 2012. And it was actually Kodak that came up with the first digital camera. A prototype was developed at the company back in 1975. It was a bulky box-like device that captured images and stored them in a cassette tape. You know, Chesley, forget about shaking it like a Polaroid picture. Can you imagine if they pushed forward with the prototype?
Wow, that would be cool. All right, really appreciate it. Maribel Aber, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. All right, helping to take care of the expensive child care can be costly. We're going to talk about a plan that one county has when we return. Stay right there. This is The Take. Okay, let's face it, child care is expensive, and Fulton County is testing a way to ease the burden for its workers. Let's bring in Fulton County Chairman Rob Pitts to explain a new pilot program underway and what it could mean for the future there. Welcome back to the show, Commissioner Pitts.
Great to be with you again.
All right, now let's explain this program first of all.
Well, let me go back to the beginning. I think it was in April of earlier this year in April where I put legislation before the board to develop and create a pilot program that would provide child assistance, child care payments, a reimbursement payment for our employees who would qualify. Because the thinking here was that, you know, most of our workforce is female. That's number one. Number two, every report that I had read at the time said that one of the deterrents to people working, women working in particular, was the cost of child care. So I'm thinking that, well, if that's the case, we need to address that issue. Because I was thinking back that when my daughter was little, we spent $1,000 a month. And that was back, you know, some 25 years ago. Fast forward, it's really, really expensive now. So that's number one. What can we do to provide some assistance? Number two, at any point in time, our main building here, 141 Prior Street, is half empty because people are working from home. Some always say getting paid from home, whether they're working from home or not. That's another story and a discussion for another day. But I thought that as an enticement to getting them to come back to work, if we could provide child care. And so it kind of grew from that. So fast forward, again, the original legislation introduced in April of this year. At our last Board of Commission meeting, the board agreed with me and approved unanimously this pilot program. It would be a 6-month pilot program through the end of the year. There will be a lottery for people to participate in. And we did a survey, but I'm leaving this out. We did a survey to determine whether or not there would be any interest in the program. And we were shocked at how widespread the interest was in it and still is. So that's what led to it. Again, 6-month pilot program. It will be retroactive until July of this year through the end of the year. And if it's successful, and I have no doubt that it will be, then we will look at it from the point of view of funding it going forward, beginning in the 2026 budget. They will be reimbursed up to $500 per month for those who qualify. So I'm excited about it. The board is excited about it. And more importantly, the employees are excited about it.
Well, I bet.
That's what we are.
Yeah, I bet. You talked about helping families with this program, also bringing employees back into the office. Is it also used as a tool to attract more talent to your area?
Absolutely. Because child care is a problem. And also, you know, we talked about it as well. We'll have to see how this plays out because, like, for example, in our jail, most of the people in that jail who are working there, many of them are females. And my thought was, well, what if we were able to provide child care in close proximity to that jail? Because the jail is open 24 hours a day. If we could provide child care, close proximity, adjacent to that jail, just think how attractive that would be for, again, primarily females, but they're also men who are responsible for child care.
Yeah.
What a wonderful thing that will be, and that's in the works as well.
Yeah. Now we understand you have like 100 spots available. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. So how do you select or have a process that's fair and equitable for employees across all departments?
It'll be a randomly drawing. And those who qualify will be put in a bowl, a fish bowl, I guess, and I will be there picking out the 100 names, and whoever wins. Because I mean, the demand is going to be much greater than the resources that we have during this pilot program period.
Yeah, you have no doubt you have people in your area that have unique child care needs. How do we ensure that they're not left out of the program?
Well, there'll be a priority for those who have like special needs cases. We're going to come up with a way to take care of them as a priority, as a matter of fact.
You think, and it sounds like this program is going to be successful, right? And
I have no doubt about it.
So you'll make it permanent, I guess, throughout the county for employees, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's
again, it's also all depending on what the 2026 budget looks like. But the pilot program will be successful, and that will be a compelling argument, I think, for the board to consider this going forward.
What was the feedback, particularly? You said it was overwhelming. You did a survey. It was overwhelming success. You thought, you got more than what you thought you would get from employees as far as wanting this care. What was the specific feedback that they gave you?
They wanted it. They liked it. Thought it was actually long overdue, and they were thrilled that the county would be, again, Fulton County, I always say we're a big deal. We're very progressive, top county, one of the top counties in the country. We're always a leader, and I think this, again, if this is successful, it'll put Fulton County, Georgia, once again at the forefront. Yeah.
So you think it'll serve as a model for other counties in Georgia, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Well, we want to have you back and hear more about this program, obviously, because obviously people are interested. We want to know how successful it's going to be, and we'll have you back and talk more about it.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Chairman Pitts, really appreciate it. All right. When we come back, folks, we're going to have another look at the forecast plus my final take when we return. This is The Take. We're back right after this. Well, it's going to be hot this afternoon. I can tell you that right now. The clouds are starting to break up, and we'll get some sunshine in here. And so we're going to see a temperature in the upper 80s, maybe even closer to 90 degrees, depending on how much sunshine we actually receive before those clouds roll back in, and a chance for some showers. We'll give it a 50% chance for this afternoon. And then we're looking at a 30% chance on Thursday, down to a 20% chance by Friday. So you see the trend as far as those thunderstorms and showers go. They'll be going down, and the temperature will be going up. 91 degrees will be a high temperature on Friday. Saturday, Sunday, we're looking at temperatures right around the 90-degree mark as well. Keep in mind, that's where we should be for this time of year. We're going to hold on to that low threat for the rain as we head into Monday and Tuesday. But those temperatures will remain in the 90s. Now, what we have not talked about is the humidity. You got to factor that in, of course, and so it's going to feel hot. Much more like August around here this weekend and into next week. All right, the Colorado Buffaloes gained a lot of attention when they hired former Atlanta Falcon and Brave Deion Sanders. Remember that? He's the head coach there. But his former star athlete, drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars, are getting all the attention today. Yeah. He was the 2024 Heisman Trophy winner. Travis Hunter is who we're talking about. He continues to impress on and off the field during his college football career and now his professional career. He's been a standout player on and off the field, playing both offense and defense, and he continues to be elite in the classroom as well. Hunter's final college GPA went viral on social media following his first NFL preseason game. You know what he got? 3.9 GPA. Now, I'm not sure if you realize how hard that is for a D1 football player, where football takes up most of your time, if not all of your time. 3.9, folks. Very impressive. Now, I got to admit, I'm not a Jaguar fan at all, but it's going to be hard to root against this guy. Wishing him the best in his NFL career and his life. At that, Travis Hunter, remember the name. He's doing great things on and off the field, folks. That's all we have for you today. Make it a great one, folks, and try to encourage someone today.